What a motley crew, but here we are for March Madness 2021. It is the Three Dog Thursday YouTube Roundtable. I am merely the somewhat capable ringleader of this thing. With me right now are two guys to help break it all down. Let's say hello to Dan Leach, as advertised from Detroit. 97 The Ticket, the FM sports radio station. The Big Ten's got 57 teams in the tournament. Leach is here to break it all down. How are you, my friend? I bow to you as we get ready for the tournament.
I bow to you and our upcoming guest Ryan as well. The smoothie with the protein powder, it just tastes that much better as I search for that great 18, 19-year-old DTM squash body I miss with the tournament just hours away. And NIT action on Wednesday. So things are good, my friend.
They are.
By the way, the last time we talked, you did me the great honor of coming on my show as you were getting ready for the Super Bowl as king of the sidelines, Mr. Buck. You were that picture of you with the confetti.
Okay,
very
hold
emotional.
on. Stand by. Hold on. The Super Bowl hat's back here, and I don't know that Kramer has seen this, but my mother-in-law came through. God love the mother-in-laws because she got the picture framed that about. There I am with confetti, fireworks, guys. So I have a framed photo of TJ at Super Bowl 55. Hopefully that shows up well enough. Thank you, Leach, for the reference. It was your mojo.
I'm going to sign that. We'll make it a lithograph. It'll be a one of one and at least $1 million.
Leach was mojo. Ryan Kramer was giving me mojo right before the Super Bowl on Super Bowl 55. Hello, Ryan Kramer, Sports Gambling Podcast, sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Great to have you on the eve of the NCAA tournament.
TJ, what's up? Coming to you live from the new studios. We just launched the new studio, Sports Gambling Podcast, for March Madness. I was telling you we were supposed to speak a little earlier in the day, but we had to bump you for Bill Burr, so we'll have him on the show later. So as Dan was saying, this is the action time of the year. So many picks. I just looked at my my local betting account, and I'm up to 66 wagers so far. So
oh my, you got to have at least 68 for the field of 68, and it might get to 168 before it is over with, because those guys again have the hashtag DGens only at Sports Gambling Podcast. So DGens only have got to have 100 or plus on that. All right. So with that being said, let's go for it. Here it is. We are ready. This is actually where it will culminate, as we see on screen on the YouTube Roundtable. I remind everybody again, if you're only hearing us on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, Google Podcast, come find the YouTube Roundtable. There it is, boys. Jeff Goodman of Stadium and the Watch Stadium website shows us the picture of Lucas Oil Stadium set up for the Final Four in particular. They're not playing all the games there, but a bunch of them there. Dan Leach, you first. The Big Ten just played its tournament in that facility, the home of the Indianapolis Colts, and we get ready now for the whole thing to get underway, and it culminates right there as we're looking at it.
Yeah, not too far from where I'm at in the Motor City. I've been there before, and it's obviously, thank God we're playing. It's been a couple years, and they got those 6 sites for the first and second round, and then as you mentioned, it will culminate there at Lucas Oil. But I'm so excited, and we got to keep our fingers crossed because we know that we're not totally out of the woods, but I think we're going to be okay. And to be able to get back to March Madness, I'm good friends with I won't say his name because I don't know if he wants me to say it, but a really long time Division I coach. And he said that if they didn't have the tournament this year, 100 teams could fold. So thank God we got it. They need that money. We need the entertainment. It's been a rough year that we're getting, we're coming out of it, but I can't wait. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And you mentioned the Big Ten tournament, of course, by Wolverines. Livers and onions. We needed livers and onions. But they couldn't get the job done. But boy, does the Big Ten look amazing. 9 teams. Rutgers for the first time in forever. And it's going to be a lot of fun to see just how – I think the Big Ten, maybe I'm a little biased. I think the Big Ten is by far the best conference, but can we get 2 teams in the Final Four? Can we get 3 or 4 teams in the Elite Eight? We'll see. But I think the Big Ten is going to have a lot to say about who wins it all and whether Gonzaga wins it all or not.
All right. Well done. We'll get back. We'll circle back to Isaiah Livers and what it means for Michigan as a number 1 seed. Ryan Kramer, obviously, I'm going to put it up on a tee and let you knock it out of the park. Mixed metaphor. It's a baseball metaphor. You guys got to be amped, excited the whole bit here as it all unfolds. What about it all unfolding in Indiana, in Bloomington and West Lafayette? Yes, but most of it around Indianapolis. This is crazy that it's all in one place. You talk about hoops heaven.
It's hoops heaven. And in some ways, the canceling of March Madness was kind of the beginning of the pandemic for most, especially the D-Gens, when they just said, we're stopping the world, AKA March Madness. But Indiana, the home of basketball, quote unquote, and the only team representing the great state is the Purdue Boilermakers from the Big Ten. I think that's an interesting storyline. One of the, this is a podcast about dogs, TJ, because I am bullish on the idea that Purdue gets a little bump from being the Indiana team, the sole Indiana representative. So you want to come early with a pick here, but Purdue to win that region, why not?
Wow. And you make a great point that how crazy would this have been if the Hoosiers were any good? And of course, Archie Miller fired earlier in the week, as Leach knows, in Big Ten territory. They're not involved at all. Notre Dame, not there. Butler, not there. It's crazy to have it in Indiana, not have those teams there for this. We'll get to a couple of underdog picks from my guest. You're hearing from Ryan Kramer, Sports Gambling Podcast. Follow him at Kramer Centric on Twitter. Follow them at Gambling Podcast on social media, sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Dan Leach, 97.1 from 97.1 The Ticket. In Detroit. He's Dan Leach 97.1 on Twitter is with me as well. Leach, back to you for a moment. I'm going to share the screen again here because this is the key injury for Michigan. You've got the intel. Ryan Kramer's all ears right now on what's the deal with Isaiah Livers. There he is in the boot. We're seeing this on the screen on the YouTube roundtable. Stress fracture in the right foot. Unavailable for the whole first weekend. When is he possibly available? What are you hearing? What do we know?
Well, two quick things. One, I just met the Crames. I already love them. But before we talk about Purdue winning the region, they might lose to me great. Let's talk about North Texas. So let's not worry about that. But when it comes to Michigan, I got to clear you up here. It is not being revealed as a stress fracture. If it was, he'd be out. So it's not being talked about. Could it be? Sure. I actually, without giving away a great source of mine, I got a friend that is a medical professional inside the Michigan program.
Okay.
It doesn't look good, but there is a la Willis Reed chance that, as I call him, Isaiah Livers and Onions, which was a terrible dish that my mom used to hate, but is great for, he's the heart and soul of the Michigan team. There is a chance he could come back. And the big question is, TJ, and what I'm hearing is he's good spirits. You just never know what's going to happen as far as how things can hold up and pain tolerance and all that kind of stuff. But he's the heart and soul of the team, and they're a completely different team without him. The good news for Michigan fans, which I am, is this. They're still an incredible team. And Juwan Howard, one of the 4 finalists for Coach of the Year. He deserves it. You look at what Hunter Gatherer Dickinson's doing, one of the best freshmen in the year, Big Ten freshman of the year. You know what Mike Smith's done. You got a team that really was completely dominant much of the year, save that Minnesota game and late in the season, the loss to Michigan State when they had nothing to play for. But without Livers, I'm very concerned of Michigan being able to win it all. They can still be a Final Four team. They can still definitely get out of that region, as tough as it might be. And Alabama is a very tough, number 2 seed in that region in the East. But I look at it like this. If Livers can come back somehow, this is a team that can win it all. If he doesn't, they're going to have to learn on the fly because, as I mentioned, he's such an important, synergetic part of that team. But I trust Juwan Howard. In such a little time, he's been so impressive with how he has gotten these kids to play better, be their best selves, be together, synergetic, all that stuff. So while I'm a little nervous without Livers right now, I still think Michigan's got a great chance to make a run. And no one would have said that before the season started. So in a way, it's house money, but it's Final Four bust, in my opinion, for Michigan.
Okay, so Leach has that opinion. Ryan, to you, we got to be careful of COVID situations. There are other injuries. I mean, obviously, Villanova's damaged goods with Gillespie being hurt. How big of a deal is it if Livers cannot play sustained here for the weekend and beyond for Michigan's chances to go all the way? What do you think on that real quick, Ryan?
The quick version is I think they're still very easily going to be probably a Final Four team. And I think the Big Ten was really, I guess I could be wrong. You could be wrong. We could all be wrong about how good the Big Ten really was, but I think it was really good. And I think it could be a scenario where we see 2 or 3 teams from the Big Ten in the Final Four. So the idea of them, having an injury, getting beat by Ohio State, and that being the reason to find a reason to get cute and have, are you going to have the Bonnies upset them? Georgetown, Florida State, none of these teams in their side of the bracket. I actually think they got a fairly good draw. I just don't see enough teams that can really test them enough to push them to what Ohio State or other Big Ten teams could. So, yeah, perhaps I'm biased. I do have a future on Michigan to make the Final Four, full disclosure, but I think they get there. So I'm all in on the Big Ten as well, even though I'm coming to you from the land of the West Coasters, but Michigan is going to be in the Final Four.
About that. I like Alabama in the bottom half of that draw, and the Tide showed something with come from behind wins over Tennessee and LSU, hanging on to beat LSU on Sunday. That could be some kind of regional final if that is the case. Few more minutes on the YouTube roundtable. Let's roll the sleeves up, as I like to say, even though I don't really have sleeves. Let's roll the sleeves, and Leach doesn't either. And I think Kramer's got the hoodie or the pullover, so you have sleeves.
I got it.
Let's roll them up and give me an underdog or two. Dan Leach, you've been scouring it. This is Three Dog Thursday. Give me an underdog you like for this weekend and why, por favor.
Well, I got two, and underdogs are what it's all. I mean, listen, it's what it's all about. I'm all about upsets, and if you're welcome to join my greatest bracket contest in the land, which rewards you for upsets. But I mentioned I got a friend that might be a dentist that's working with Michigan. If you like teeth, how about Colgate? Those guys score 1 million points. Arkansas, listen, very, very good team. They've been super hot, but I'm going with the teeth, the toothpaste, with Colgate as the 14 over the 3 Arkansas. And I'll give you another one from my area here. Being a former MAC guy and obviously a Big Ten guy too, but I went to Eastern Michigan, called games for the Eagles with Earl Boykins. He was my classmate. I used to make him laugh in our theory of basketball class. Why was Earl Boykins in a theory of basketball class? But hey, what can you do? I think Ohio against an undermanned and COVID crazy Virginia not only can win that game, that 13-4 game in the first round in the West region, but also can win whoever gets out of UCSB Creighton, which I believe is going to be the 12 seed UCSB with their own tempo style. So there's two for you. Go Bombers, very well coached, very solid defensive team, and go Colgate 14-3 over Arkansas.
Yeah, I keep looking at this. I love it. I keep looking at this. And we talked with Brian Edwards in this podcast, our handicapper from Vegas Insider, MajorWager.com, about Colgate's not a double-digit, Ryan Kramer, they're not a double-digit underdog. Does Vegas know something here? Do the Sports Gambling Podcast guys know something here that the line for most of these teams that are a 13, a 14 or worse are at least double figures? Colgate's like an 8 headed to this Arkansas game. Something may be up there for Three Dog Thursday purposes.
I think this is, what we're hearing right now is the public wave of, every year. I think I'll take a step back. I think the fact that we didn't have March Madness last year and the last time we had March Madness, not a single 12 seed won, kind of talk about that typical upset role. I think people are looking for that sexy upset, and Colgate is by far one of the public dogs. And TJ, on the Sports Gambling Podcast, we like to say public dogs sometimes have fleas. And I would just caution you, because the Must Bus, they got the coaching experience in the tournament from Nevada a couple years back. That team is hot. And one of the things I like to do, call me simple, but handicapping March Madness for me is a lot about those guards. Very cliche. But you want to talk about a team that I'm taking their guards over most teams in the land, and that's Arkansas. So I'm not necessarily running to the window to get down on Arkansas, but I'm definitely not as bullish on Colgate as because it's a popular opinion, and I get it. They can score the rock. So you always want high variance opportunity. Exactly. So the more points there are, the more variance, and the more you kind of take out of that line. So to your point, maybe the line should even be bigger, but obviously people are betting on it. So as far as a dog that I like, you took one of mine, Ohio. Love that pick. Even without the COVID news, I'll tell you this, fun fact, last 13 seed to make a Sweet 16 run, Ohio. So they know how to do it. They've been there before. And, I'll give you another dog from that same bracket. I think there will be a 12-13 seed in the second round, and that's the Gauchos. This is a team that's going to come and play a Creighton team that obviously there was a little bit of turmoil with the coach and some of the players not liking what he said, and who knows what that actually did in terms of fracturing the locker room. But I think, again, efficient offense is something you look for the lower seeds, especially when they're playing a major conference 5 seed. Because what does that tell you? A 5 seed from a major conference tells you the committee has no idea what to do with that team, and they're probably a good team in poor form. So I like the idea of taking Santa Barbara. And both of those dogs, I think you can get plus 250, plus 300. So we're talking about some fun action. And TJ, you know I'm not going to come to your show without a proper dog. And that is my Grand Canyon, which, by the way, mostly an online institution, but they got a basketball team. They're taking on Iowa. We've seen Garza back down when challenged with size and strength. And you know what Grand Canyon has that most teams don't? Not one 7-footer, but two 7-footers. I think Grand Canyon gets it done. 15 over a 2 plus 750 on the money line. Let's go. That to me, that is the dog of the first round.
Ooh.
I know I'm fading the Big Ten, but
if I am correct here on this, you've got 3 live dogs as we look at it on the YouTube roundtable screen here on a digital bracket that we're looking at. You've got Grand Canyon at the bottom as a 15 seed, and you also like the 13 Ohio and the 12 UCSB. I bow to you anyway. But if you hit all 3 of those in the same bracket, a 15, a 13, and a 12 covering, not necessarily just to win, but to cover, that'd be something else. And of course, Grand Canyon being coached by Bryce Drew, the former hero for Valparaiso with the 3-point shot, the epic, it's all iconic 3-point shot to win an NCAA tournament game. And then he swan dives on the floor. He was the Valpo coach in the NCAA tournament. He was the Vanderbilt coach for only 1 year, and they fired him after 1 bad year. Now he's 1 year at Grand Canyon. They win 20 games, are in the tournament. Just be careful. Iowa and Luka Garza. I mean, I know Leach is going to say right away, Iowa and Luka Garza aren't fooling around either, and they're going to probably win that game. But Kramer, you were saying as much as anything, they'll keep it close. The Grand Canyon will probably keep it close as an underdog in that matchup, right?
I just think if there's one team for me to circle and target in the Big Ten that has shown to be soft at times, especially when dealing with teams with size, it's Iowa. And I think even Big Ten fans aren't willing to die on the island that Iowa is going to be tough and scrap. So I think if Grand Canyon can keep this close, put them to the test, I would be very excited to watch a closing 6 minutes with the game on the line, because I'm telling you, you're going to watch this Grand Canyon team and you're going to be like, all right, I mean, I see it. This does not look like a tiny little online school.
Hey, for place going up, two things, TJ. If he's going to bring 3, I'll bring 4. I'll give you 4. I got a 1-up Ryan. 2, let's give some credit to previous coach Dan Marley, who got Grand Canyon going and then obviously got fired. But I'm with you. This is the thing about Iowa. You make some great points about, Garza can go away. He can be soft at times. But this is the other side of that, Ryan and TJ. I'm not comparing him, obviously, to Kemba Walker, but you look at guys that have taken over tournaments. Kemba did that with the UConn. Middle of game, Nate Big East team that year. They go on that crazy run, the 6 overtime game against Syracuse. He took over the Big East tournament and then the NCAA tournament. I think Luka Garza can take over the NCAA tournament. Iowa, though, much different team. I totally get where you're coming from with that. But I will give you 2 more. One of them is on Purdue that I mentioned earlier. Don't sleep on the Mean Green from North Texas. They can play tough defense. They can score, in bunches. So that's a 13 over a 4. I'll give you 2 13s over 4s. But I'm not buying Villanova at all. I know they had their pause. I know they can play at a very high level. I really think Winthrop, who has been to the tournament, 3 times in 5 years, I believe, something like that. They're very well coached. You mentioned good guard play. They got 2 great guards at Winthrop. I'm going to go with that. I think there's going to be at least 2 12s over a 5. You mentioned, Ryan, that last time there was none. There normally is at least 1 or 2. It's very rare there's not any. I think there's going to be 2 or 3 this time. I'll give you the 12-5 Winthrop over the Nova Eagles, who obviously were incredible, beating my Wolverines a couple years ago in the national title game. And Ryan, you mentioned the Bombers, the last 13 to go to the Sweet 16. Yeah, they beat Michigan. So thanks for that memory.
He knows that too.
You're
Dan
welcome.
Leach from 97.1 The Ticket, the FM sports radio station again in Detroit. And again, with respect to Villanova, damaged goods without Gillespie. If you're damaged goods this time of year, not a good thing. We'll see what happens with all of the underdogs. We've got to get out of here in a moment. These guys do as well. I'm going to show you one more time on the plugs. Here we go. Leach is like playing cheerleader. He's ready to go. Ryan Kramer and the Sports Gambling Podcast, guys. Here they are. Take a look at Sean Green, Ryan Kramer, Colby Dant. We're looking at all of you guys hanging here and making your picks. There you are in the new studio, guys. So find them at Gambling Podcast on social media, on Twitter, sportsgamblingpodcast.com. They've got shows galore, as Ryan was plugging. Bill Burr is part of their picks and their DGens only picks. I will be very disappointed if there's not at least 176. I made that number up. Different DGen only picks from the Sports Gambling Podcast before the tournament begins. But Colby, Dan, Ryan, Sean Green, they do a great job. There they are. Here is Dan Leach. We plug him on the YouTube roundtable. Dan Leach, 97.1.
It's an emotional Twitter.
There it is. You and Dad, hail to the victors there in the big house. Leach holding court, it looks like, at a Tigers game. Hopefully we get back to that someday with all the fans, etc. What kind of tournament will it be for Michigan in Indianapolis? One more point on that. And again, find him at Dan Leach 71, 97.1. The ticket is the FM sports station in Detroit. Again, the Big Ten teams are all familiar with Lucas Oil Stadium. They've all played in it last weekend. That may be advantage as we go Sweet 16, Elite 8, and the Final Four, etc. That may be a factor as well. All right, boys, for now, we're done. One more time to say goodbye. Ryan Kramer, anything else in closing before we get out of here?
No, just, make sure to stay hydrated. It's a long couple days.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And they want to stay locked into sportsgamblingpodcast.com. You got the phone charged. You got extra phone batteries. You got extra smoothies. Dan Leach, you're ready, right?
I just followed the Sports Gambling Podcast.
As everybody should. As everybody should. Anything else, Leach?
I love you both, Ryan. We're gonna be best friends, as me and TJ already are. So I'm great to meet you. And I hate to do this because I love the Wolverines, but I'm picking Illinois to win the national title.
Wow.
But hey, that's where I'm at.
We're trying to get it all done. Boys, great job. Dan Leach, 97.1 The Ticket, FM Sports Radio in Detroit. Ryan Kramer, Sports Gambling Podcast. Thank you, boys, on the Three Dog Thursday YouTube Roundtable.
Cheers.